We can just look right at reality and say, you know, what are the facts, and then what do the facts imply about values? What does the what does the is imply about the ought? Yeah, I mean, he would say he's not he's saying the truth and morality is intrinsic in reality, but that God is the source of that. And then what's typically the answer to people like Ben Shapiro? It's this skepticism. It's saying, oh, no, don't be so certain there's a God. There's really no evidence of that. There's really no evidence of anything. So just follow what you think right now, but you can't even really be sure of that. It ultimately eats itself, and it does turn into nihilism. And ultimately, you see these atheists turning back to religion, really. It all kind of comes full circle, and you see the popularity of people like Jordan Peterson. He's kind of bringing religion back into the intellectual kind of respected position that it maybe had a very long time ago. Like
reasonable atheists would not be dragged back into religion with his arguments, is what I would say.
But it's bigger, it's deeper than arguments, ultimately. What inspires people is meaning. What inspires people are stories. And he's saying, look, there's these stories that have been with us for thousands of years. And Peterson is saying these stories from the Bible are innate. They're in us. Evolution gave them to us because they work. And since he says, you can't really access reality objectively because, like every other modern thinker, he doesn't think reason works entirely well. So he says we need to turn to these stories that are innate. We need to turn to religion, and that gives us some guidance for how to behave. So yeah, his religious side is obviously irrational, but he blends it with pseudoscience, like this biological determinism, this evolutionary psychology, which I think is a largely misunderstanding of evolution that people use. And then his kind of purely secular side, I guess, is pragmatism. He subscribed to just mainstream pragmatism, which sounds like a good thing. Yeah, pragmatism, just do what works. Yeah. But hold on. If you don't think that an individual can independently observe reality and form generalizations about what he observes, and then form principles for what to follow, if you don't think that those principles have any basis in the facts, so what's left? Just do what seems right now? What makes it seem right? Feelings, of course. Pragmatism says, follow your emotions. Just start acting. Just see what your body does. Just see where your feelings drive you. So it's emotionalism. So we've got religion on one side, under the guise of science and objectivity, and then on the other side you've got this emotionalism saying, just do what seems to work right now.
And it became a big pseudoscience. Actually, that is a little bit what leads a lot of people on the movement that I have talked about, on NO Fap Movement. Have you heard, you have any position about?
There's a lot to say. I mean, this is an important part of life, of course. I mean, anecdotes can be, what else do you have, right? But observation. So again, observation is not the same as subjectivity. If someone found that stopping to masturbate has helped them focus on more long-term goals, including finding a sex partner, aka a romantic partner, there's definitely something there. I think I found that my most productive times of growth, my most passionate kind of streaks, I think were at a time when I was laying off the fapping. So I might surprise you if I say I'm sympathetic to the NO Fap philosophy. I don't know if they're saying it for all the right reasons, but there's something in there that I think is positive. There probably also is a difference between male and female masturbation. When a man masturbates, it takes something a bit out of him that he could probably use, like well, look, you know how a woman can have multiple orgasms at once or in a row, or she still enjoys sex after she orgasms. So that's quite different from a man. A man, he comes and he's ready to go to sleep. So a man who's masturbating at...
It's nice to say that, because there are a lot of young people that think that feeling, it's something unnatural and it's something that is taking some vitamins or energy. And no, the girls feel the same. You know, to have the orgasm, it's a natural feeling of feeling like relaxed and sleepy after, because that is one of the things. Okay, see how that consumes your body. Like the people that want to indoctrinate for other reasons on like how fapping is bad, use that as an argument to show how masturbation is negative for your body. And that's where I'm like trying to talk against those things, because it comes a lot of from, it's very like on the conservative religious view of the masturbation. It's like, oh, you know that if you fap, you're gonna have hair growing in your hand. And then they bring other arguments that are like, no, this is like the natural thing of way of feeling, and use this as negative. One of the things that I actually talked about is like, because what I believe on the No Fap movement is like, you put men into this mode of like, you're not gonna fap. You used to fap every day. Even if you do it every day, you're gonna like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. You're gonna have to replace that time with some other activity. I see a lot of guys saying like they're going to the gym, and that brings a lot of struggle into your living, like your routine. So normally people that are going to the gym, they eat better, they sleep better, they drink more liquids. Those factors, this replacement of habits will increase your testosterone, will increase your well-being in general, and there is nothing related to keeping to seminal retention or to like not fapping. Like you could do all the things and keep fapping and feel better. And it's not the fapping that was negative for your life at first.
Yeah, I think when people say it's unnatural, I think they're falling into this trap again, where either we're material beings with no consciousness, or we're conscious beings with whose body is disgusting. But I mean, what they're doing here, it sounds like they're like, okay, so what is masturbation if we were to analyze it? A person, a human being, is thinking about something that's not actually happening at the moment. They're not having sex with someone. They're thinking about sex, and that's arousing them. And they're touching themselves, but they're thinking about, other things. It's clearly conceptual. You're clearly using things that you've abstracted from reality. And that is a human activity, of course. This is very human. It is very natural. It is just as it is natural to develop technology. It is natural to write lyrics or music or whatever it is, or to paint a picture. It is human and natural to fantasize and to think about things that are arousing and to masturbate. So I do think that masturbation is natural. I do think it is an important part of life. The place where I might start to overlap with the No Fap movement is where they might make some valid points, like saying like people who do it constantly, it's hindering their development.
So yeah, one of the things that I'm planning on, coming back to subject, I'm actually talking about this here without having given them the answer, but I'm working on studying, like reading a lot of studies, and want to produce at first a video to instead of a straw man, to Iron Man their position. So because there are people that could get benefit from the abstinence of masturbation, and try to delimitate, try to explain who are these people that could have benefits from it and how to do it in a more reasonable way. I'm going to do as much as I can, and it start becoming like a challenge on like how is going to win. Oh, I'm 138 days. Okay, there's no point of doing for more than 7 days. By the studies that I've read that support the claim, that back this claim up, suggest like a 6-7 days abstinence, and not like this challenge that is being trending viral online, that is like a lot of guys just posting like, oh, I'm 100 days, I'm 200 days, I'm 300 days, because there is no point of doing for that long, in the way that you said, like rationalizing of what is the masturbation is, yes, it's something that you like just fantasizing, and you have something real because you're touching yourself, you're gonna ejaculate, you're gonna have all these feelings. But in the other way, it's like there are other species that do masturbate, and when I see that in biology as like in the nature, I actually see it as something. It's the masturbation is a tool for you to get on the urge, you would be like, you're like in a sexual need, or in a sexual urge, and you cannot get access to your partner or to someone at that time. So it would be like a snack. It's what I play with my friends when I talk about this. Like, it's like a snack. You're not gonna survive out of snacks. You need to eat the main meals. You need to go through breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But when you're in between then and you cannot access that meal, you don't need to be starving anyways. You don't need to feel that need and not have access, because you can fulfill yourself like in another way. So that would be, and that is something like that if you use with moderation, like we said, because even drinking water, eating candy, whatever, natural things become addictive, and you can use in addictive, negative ways.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the limit that you should keep to be healthy. So it's like there are studies that show negative results of masturbation if you're doing it exclusively. So if you have a partner and you like, I can't see her during the week, and you want to masturbate, there is no problem if you're going to see her in the end of the week. But if you do not have a girlfriend, or whatever, yeah, you should not just do it all the time, and be fine with that, because you do need to go for the hunt. You need to go find your girlfriend and do both. That is the healthy way. So yeah, there is a lot of to talk about, and
Mm-hmm.
and I understand, like, most of people would, like, in that analysis of like their personal experiences, yeah, oh yeah, I could be using that time for a better thing, and then they end up thinking that thing is bad or negative. But you see, like, as I really want to stand on the point, like, no, there is nothing bad if you use it properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way I would say it's more than a snack. Like it's an important part of development, and if you're introspective, if you're thinking as you're going, like what is this that arouses me about this? What does this say about me and my values? I think it's a type of introspective process that you
It
can't
is
get anywhere
important.
else. So yeah, I think what people are getting at when they're counting the days and they're kind of supporting one another's journey is, again, it's kind of like with the 12-step program with alcoholism. It can be turned into an unhealthy thing if people kind of misunderstand what they're trying to do. There's something there where people are trying to find some integrated purpose, where this
Yeah.
has become oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing. I may be making mistakes today. There's a lot I don't know, but one thing I know I'm doing right is that I'm not masturbating constantly the way that I did in the past. So it gives them something to kind of hold as their purpose, and kind of like
Mhm.
their a value. But no, yeah, moderation is definitely the way. I think pornography is probably an interesting sort of additional thing
Yeah, there is
to
a lot
debate.
of it meshes, and it kind of a
Mm-hmm.
mix a little bit the conversation with the pornography. I have watched and studied a lot about it, because there are like a lot of studies and a lot of statistics coming out of this. It's like violence related to pornography. I've checked on some on South America, and they go totally against what the claims try to
Yeah.
say. They try to say that people that consume pornography are more violent, and it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting enough, is like the people that do not consume pornography are more violent partners.
Yeah.
This is some in South America, it's more related to religiosity. Like, apparently the most of cases of like uh, domestic violence is from evangelical people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, because one of the studies that I've read about the pornography was like related to like this thing on like what people like and what people will look for, because some people try to say like, oh, pornography is addictive and will bring you in a level like you're gonna consume this type, and you're gonna degenerate to consume violent pornography or weird pornography. And it's pretty not. There is such a pattern
Mm-hmm.
study in lab by a Canadian doctor that was about what people look for and what really arouse people. And they found out that men are very much strict on their tastes. They really know what they like, and they do not get aroused by the things that they are not interested. So you can put a man sitting there and play all the types of pornography, even the worst ones, and they will not get aroused by, if they say like they are heterosexual, they will only get aroused by girls. And if they say they are homosexual, they will only get aroused by men. It's really interesting in the other way that girls get aroused by pretty much everything.
Can I chime in? I think whenever you talk about these studies, I'm skeptical of these
Yeah,
studies because, like I mentioned earlier, psychology is such a young science, and
yeah.
it's been corrupted from the start. So the people conducting these studies, they're not introspecting. They're not asking themselves what is the role of sex in my life. No, they're just looking at the patient as though he's a lab rat and documenting his behavior. So they don't understand the role of consciousness, and they're not factoring in, they're not controlling for what the patient believes. Again, philosophy is the missing piece of the puzzle. So you mentioned a study earlier in our conversation. I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly, but I tend to take those studies and throw them
Oh
in the
yeah, no,
trash.
I understand
Hmm.
that you
Hmm.
kind of try to argue with the methodology, and like
Hmm.
I would like to know sometimes. Yeah, is what I try to do. I try to go more through the methodology. Uh, I understand that you're very skeptical about the things that are subjective. No, this was not that subjective study, because I know they put electrodes on the penises and vaginas, so there was a little bit on like the impulse and
No, 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 no. This I agree mainly from my own introspection and from people
yeah.
I've known is that yes, men tend
Okay,
to know what we're attracted to, and
there is
women are a little more fluid. But the part where I throw the studies I throw in the trash are trying to relate pornography to violence. Whether it's
oh yes, yes,
whether
yes.
so
No,
things
sorry.
like that I think are very superficial studies. It's not real science because real science needs to factor in everything. So you got these people in South America with a long history of Catholicism, so their whole worldview is warped by that, and influences of Marxism and all these other philosophical beliefs, and the nativism, this sort of kind of barbaric attitude, which has some good things about it, by the way, a
Hmm.
certain
Yeah.
innocence and love of nature, but like love of self and in a certain respect. And now we're suddenly looking at a guy who beats his wife and asking, well, was he looking at pornography? There's so much there to unpack. So that's
I
why
see,
I
I see.
I tend to
Yeah,
kind of
no, it's
just
more that like on the data, like it's more on the, it's not a prospective study, it's a retrospective study. So they take like the data and they just put like, yeah, we asked for using pornography and being religious on the cases of aggressors. So they took like aggressors as
yeah.
the universe and asked them questions about these two things. So it's more like a retrospective. They already got people like, yeah, they are deleting everybody that was not caught, for example, because it could have like a bunch of people that are not even religious and that do consume pornography that were not caught by the study because they were not even caught by the police as a violent aggressor.
Yeah, and well,
Like,
so
yeah, no, I
my
understand.
and there's so much that goes into what makes a person violent. There's so much that goes into it, and in the modern
Yeah, the
world,
other factors that bring the person to be that violent as
but
well. Yeah.
the main one being philosophy, and most philosophy is implicit. So people they don't even realize they've been influenced by these ideas. So in the modern world, the scientific approach doesn't look at philosophy as an important factor. In the modern world, a scientist studying humans just looks at if a person is being violent and goes, what are the conditions that caused him to be violent? I don't know, maybe the fact that he doesn't have a coherent worldview. He's a human being that has the mentality of a monkey. Like he doesn't like he has all these urges and all these mixed messages and then guilt from religion on top of that and guilt from the other philosophical influences on top of that, and he doesn't know what to do with himself, and he gets some relief from pornography because it gives him something kind of based in reality, but it of course adds other connotations about sex and about pleasure in general. He's been taught that pleasure is either sinful or pleasure is amoral at best. It has no relationship to morality. So there's so much that goes into what makes a person violent or what makes a person the way they are in general. So it's very superficial and at all, I think, to just look at something as advanced as a person being violent and trying to relate it to like certain environmental factors, such as like were they intaking exposure to pornography, or were they intaking marijuana? Were they, we need to go deeper. Then that's why I always like to focus on well what is true, like what is the proper philosophy for living on Earth, and then it helps you really understand kind of that gives you the tools to understand the role of sex in a rational life, and you might then also evaluate porn and ask, well, what is the role of porn, if any, in a rational life? Would people want to produce porn if?
But I think like, is that porn not just another type of imagery that came with the video?
No,
because like we had like other things before.
Mm-hmm.
No, like
well,
we still had like I don't know, like we had the letters, we had like all the magazines, we had the imagery books that would portray the kind of like pornography before we had the video, like.
Look, we had the ability to draw naked people having sex for a very long time, but Thomas Jefferson and George Washington weren't sending each other animated porn. They were writing each other long letters about, I don't know if Washington was involved in this conversation, but the people in the Age of Reason, they had a certain view of
the Playboy letters,
the nature of. Well, okay, so something happened. It's not that technology made us. We've gotten much more into porn since the 1960s or so. So our technology has not advanced significantly before that and since then. Hugh Hefner did not invent, the camera, or Larry Flint is probably a better example of the values of a culture being reflected. He created Hustler. So to him, nudity and a little bit of sexual action wasn't enough. To him, he wanted to see strap-ons and chicks with dicks and all types of leather outfits and goat play. I think the degree to which people indulge in porn. BDSM. Yeah, BDSM. I think the degree to which people engage in porn and the type of porn that they're into, it sort of reflects their values, and it's very difficult to untangle. This is not a simple equation, like if you're aroused by this, you believe this. No, it's much more complicated, but the relationship of people to pornography and therefore of a culture, the role of porn in a culture, it says something about the philosophy of the culture. So our attitude towards sex, I think, has gotten a lot more materialistic in modern times than maybe it was a long time ago. So it's not just that technology has made porn more abundant. It's that if everyone was like me, there'd be a lot fewer people being willing to star in a pornographic video. A lot fewer people would be willing to expose themselves and to have sex with a stranger and to distribute it to everyone. So it's a tough question. It's an interesting question. Like what if the future goes the way that I want it to, if objectivism is embraced by the intellectuals and the culture comes to reflect that, and there's this new age of reason, how would people look at sex, both having sex and as well as, using technology to show sex in the media? It's an interesting question. I don't have all the answers, but all roads do lead to philosophy, and all things involving sex do ultimately.
Don't you think we're doing okay the way that we're doing right now? Like pretty much free? Like the way that the porn?
No, I don't. Well, I think we're way too promiscuous. I think the attitude towards sex is so materialistic. So a girl getting covered by 10 dicks at a time is. Who wins in that? Obviously, these are consenting adults. So politically, No,
But it
politically.
would be like what we defend as way of like it's freedom. If they are willing to do that, and there is people that are paying them from doing that, that want to consume their
Yeah,
art, I'm
politically.
fine with that.
Well, politically, I'm fine with it, but I can still judge as a person with my
Oh
own
yeah, no,
values.
yeah,
So I mean,
like
I wouldn't
it's
want to be, I wouldn't want to be one of 9 people um, ejaculating on this poor girl on camera for everybody. I wouldn't want to be that. There's a reason I wouldn't want to be that. It's because sex is important and the body is important, and not just anyone gets to see me ejaculate. So it's look, any discussion of sex ultimately does lead to values.
no, not many people talk about that. I think Jordan Peterson tried to talk a little bit like about that, but then he kind of goes on the religion and morality instead of going like the sexual value of individuals. Because some guys is stating on Facebook that, oh, if it's a girl is successful, it's because she opened her legs more times than the others one,
Of course,
or
that's an
something like
exaggeration.
that. No, no, but
That's only true most of the time. I'm joking. But so look, whether it's Jordan Peterson or the No Fap movement, I mean, there is a reason people are being drawn to this attitude, because the way sex has come to be treated, is that it's just this materialistic exchange of fluids. And here comes the religious guy or the No Fap crowd saying, no, you should have more respect than that for sex. So there's a lot that they're wrong about. There's a lot that Peterson is wrong about. He has this duty-based view of life, and he is not saying what Ayn Rand was saying, which is that sex is so good, it's so special and such an important part of life that it should be you should be selective
yeah,
with it.
yes, yes.
He's not exactly saying that. He's kind of taking he's using some of that language to say something very different. So yeah, but again, there
But
is a reason people are drawn to these things. So I think we should look at what is it about these movements and these thinkers that people are drawn to.
but I think this is an important conversation because of we are in this war of freedom, mainly with the LGBTQ community pushing in the other way, completely, like you said, completely materialist, completely sex driven choices, and like no responsibility, no. There is that we need to find that accurate, not accurate, but try to get into most accurate sense of freedom. Like, yeah, I can do sexually whatever I want, but I still want to keep the value of my sexual uh whatever I'm going to trade with other people, like, because I still have this power of like to try to trade with someone that I really want to do that, this relationship, because there is such a thing. Like what it sounds like, we have one side, the conservatives, saying like, oh, if you show your body, you can be raped. And the other side saying like, no, I can show my body, I can have sex in the middle of the street, and I still want to not be called a whore. And it's like, no, we can't have either or. I don't want to stand in either of these sides. I'm a little bit more centrist in pretty much all my positions, and is when I want to like, no, talk about that to show the feminists that they do have responsibility over their acts. So it's like, yeah, if you want to dress up as a whore and behave as a whore, you can, but you can't blame other people from judging you like that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. By the way, I think nudity is great. I mean, it's in a certain time and place. I don't,
Yes,
I
definitely.
think there's not posing nude is not the same as getting drilled by a room full of people. Like there is, like, those are not, to me, I don't think those are the same thing. I think a tasteful sort of sharing of one's body, I think is beautiful. If you got a body, I see nothing wrong with that.